Hello and welcome to the Second Row podcast. My name is Parker Cowley. We are here as always to talk about Connacht and Irish rugby. It has been a few weeks since me and Will Foley have spoken. It's been 3 weeks since you've heard from us because of technical difficulties and scheduling difficulties and life and things. There is a podcast recorded that will never see the face of Earth because, yeah. So, Will, in that meantime, how's life treated you? How are things? And were you watching Mayo finally overcome the 75-year curse?
Yeah. A year of uncursings between the New York Knicks for anybody who was watching that fun for their for pro wrestling crowds on listening in. Yeah, I mean, like, fair dues to Mayo. Nobody, no, like, I think this is probably the first time in like recent years, I say recent in the last 20, that they've been in a final where they themselves were trying to like tampen down any sort of Mayo for Sam
Expectations,
and
yeah.
expectations, and nobody really gave them a chance that Kerry were too good. So I watched it, delighted for them. It was a great game of football. Even if you don't follow football, I would recommend people watch it. But I think at least watch the celebrations, right? It's like a good reminder of like sport at its best, right? When like these kind of moments happen, teams that have not won have been bridesmaids so many times. I think they've been in 13 All Ireland finals since 1951. Uh,
9 in the last 15 years.
yeah,
They're the third most attended All Ireland final out with Dublin and Kerry in the last 20 or something. Like it's, but
something
they've
something to say. I just have never
never.
gotten over the line, and like lots of heartbreak, lots of 1 point losses and replays, and like almost like it's not like they've been thrashed in all of these games. So fair,
I do have an important question off the back of it though.
yes.
Does seeing a Mayo man lift a trophy give you hope as a Leinster fan of winning the Champions Cup? Like the Sig Doris now goes, it can be done. We can win the big
I've
one.
watched Caelan Doris win trophies and lift trophies, so I am well capable of well aware of his capability to lift a trophy in Croke Park, and don't doubt on his ability to hopefully lift the Champions Cup in the next couple of years.
The one that
Uh,
means the most anyway to the
to
Leinster
many,
team.
to many, yes, yeah. But I take, as a Wexford man, I celebrate all trophies and silverware that can be won. I'm quite happy winning the Celtic Shield in the URC every season as well. So there is no hubris on my part that winning the URC is not meaningful in that sense. But no, very excited for Connacht. Great scenes. It will be interesting to see the knock-on impact to Connacht rugby. I think they'll probably miss a month of preseason for some of those lads now, just with the celebrations in Mayo.
The Mayo squad might go missing.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
at least for the first couple of weeks of training.
The big worry is will it have a Limerick knock on that has happened in Munster in terms of football that will miss players that might make it to the sports ground one way or another.
Yeah, time will tell. We will see on that front. And then we've obviously not been talking for a couple of weeks. We have our last episode. Couldn't put it out there because of some of the controversial opinions that you were bringing up, but we won't get into it. We'll leave that be.
Yeah, I know it was just the worst. Like literally, that we recorded the week of the Japan game. I went to your house to record a podcast and
Yes.
forgot my podcasting recording equipment.
Yes.
And then so we recorded a different way, which then failed to upload. It was just a mess. One of those things where you're trying to focus so much on one thing, you forget the other important stuff.
Yeah, but
we
had a lovely time recording it, and it'll just be for you and I.
Exactly. And then last week, between me traveling from Connemara up back to Naas and
me
all the
getting
sport,
Cork.
it just didn't happen. And then during the week didn't happen because I started a new job and I was emotionally drained from working hard again. So all those type of things added into the mix. But here we are, the Nations Cup.
The inaugural round of the Nations Championship, Timu Cup, is completed. More history, I suppose, along with Mayo winning. So auspicious times in the sporting world.
So the men's season has finally finished.
Yeah.
Just as teams go back into preseason for next year. So, I think Connacht have put out stuff that they're back in preseason for the first block. I'm not sure about Leinster, not sure about anyone else, but to get out ahead of everything, Connacht have announced a new kit. It's green, it's nice, I like it, it's simple. It reminds me of, I think a couple of years ago, and you might have known this with Leinster jerseys and Munster jerseys, there's a marketeer's way of the 3 jerseys that the provinces have. Mm-hmm. So the home jersey in their heads is aimed at men over 35.
Mm-hmm.
then between the away jersey and the Connacht jersey and the European jersey, it's the children and the women, and
Yeah.
that's how they kind of
The
divvy it up.
the bolder designs, as it were.
Yes, so they tend to go for them. This is actually one of the more simpler kind of home jerseys in a while. Plain green, it's a lovely shade of green, won't go wrong. But it's nice that it's announced for the women's Interpros for their start. So they're going into this in the brand new kit for next season. They're part of the. They're not wearing last year's kit. I think that's kind of why I bring it up. Why I like it. The women's Interpros. It's all that kind of connected thing.
It's subliminal things, and it shows again at taking it seriously in terms of like, oh crap, the women's games are coming up. We need to get the kit out there so that they have it and stuff like that. So it's showing taking them seriously as well, which is good to see.
Yeah, and the socials are now ramping up for the women's Interpros. Connacht have got a few bits up, Leinster a few bits up. The one thing that Connacht have ahead of the other provinces is they have a full squad line up. So this is on Sunday, the 26th of July. There's 2 weeks before the Interpros kick off. Who knows? I'm sure they will be announced this week for all the other provinces as you're listening to this. But the kind of standouts for the Connacht one, it's a very strong selection. But like Cleana, Maloney, McDonald, Egan Riley, and Baven Parsons are the big 3 names, I think, in that squad that everyone will recognize. And I think you'll see that Connacht, everyone's taking that more seriously with the Celtic Challenge Cup, with the Six Nations. It's much more aligned in what you can say they're trying to do with the future of the professional women's game, or that top end women's game.
Agreed. Like, I think it's a good sign. And I'm hoping off the kind of successful Six Nations tour and some of these players becoming more kind of household names for people, that it will encourage people also out to these games, and bring a bit more attention to them as well. So it
is included in all the season tickets. Like if you have a season ticket for next year, you all, like, I think that's across the board of all the provinces. I know Connacht are. You were saying before we went on air,
Leinster is as well. Yeah, you have to go in and claim them, but they are like, you get them basically as a added piece, and they do send out notifications to the season ticket holders ahead of time and stuff like that. They don't play the games in the RDS at the moment. Hopefully it'll get big enough that they will play the games in the RDS. So they played in Energy Park, which is the Donnybrook pitch, which is 5 minutes up the road. It's very close, and it's fine. It does the job.
It always bugs me at Donnybrook that they can't like find a way to get a camera on the other side of the pitch to look back at the seated stand. Like, it's just one of those, like one of those foibles of it just looks worse than it needs to. Like, could the tennis club not give them like a patch of 10 feet just for a bit of scaffolding? Just stick it up there, be grand. Just for the look of sometimes, just for that, something to look a bit better. But across the other provinces, Leinster have announced Sarah Delaney. Well, sorry, they haven't announced. I saw her in the Interpro announcement, so I'm guessing she's on the squad. Same about India Daly, and Maeve O'Leary was actually announced as Munster's captain. I'm sure those 2 provinces will actually announce their squads in the next couple of weeks, like I was saying. But they're the people we know who will be playing, at the very least.
Very true, very true. Yeah, and again, as you say, we're assuming they're the captains, but we will see as the squads get announced and get confirmed in that sense.
In all fairness, Connacht men's team last year had no confirmed captain across the season.
Yeah, true.
There was no confirmed captain at any point. Everyone just assumed the club captain was Cian Prendergast, but no one actually said it. Like, it was never formally announced.
Yeah, he was the game day captain, but he wasn't the club captain necessarily.
He was captain more than anyone else. It was kind of the vibe, But it was really weird. Like, it happens, You don't know the captain of all the time. Before we kind of move on from the news, the Club World Cup might not be happening, which is, I think,
very disappointing to hear. I was planning on it, but
the most stupid idea in World Rugby after the Nations Cup is now not a thing. I think it just makes sense. I hope it never happens. It would be a nice one-off game every now and again between, say, the Champions Cup winner and the Super Rugby winner, but I think
an actual tournament is not needed. I think you could, if you really wanted to stretch the concept, you could do kind of the semi-finalists from both tournaments and do kind of a quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals kind of situation.
I think that's what they wanted to do, but I think that then just waters down everything else. And
I agree. I think if you wanted to do a final game, akin to this kind of Team World Cup thing of like the top of the north and the top of the south. Uh, sure, highly complicated by the fact that South Africa play their rugby in the Northern Hemisphere in terms of the URC and Champions Cup,
Yep.
for obvious reasons. So like, it is interesting to me, like a lot
Well,
of this North South kind of hemisphere stuff is getting a bit more ridiculous and is like across more like very antiquated lines. Like purely geographically, Japan are in the northern hemisphere. They are not in the southern hemisphere, for one thing, right? If we were to just play it purely on geographic levels,
but it's
and
not. But that's not
yeah,
even the point. When Japan are playing against Scotland, Wales, England, maybe not Italy. That's more 50-50. I want Japan to win. I don't care. Like this whole.
I'm not supporting the
I'm
northern
not
hemisphere
supporting my
teams.
neighbors.
Yeah,
It goes back to the banned Six Nations ad of like everyone
yeah,
wanting to beat England. No, like
yeah.
we support the opposition of most teams of our neighbors. Like we
Yeah.
don't care. Even
And
even the
I don't know if that's an overly Irish thing. Like it's definitely it's definitely a saying here, right? Like no one better than your neighbor, right? Like,
yeah.
which is like no better than your neighbor to put a dig in.
I know
In that sense,
this why it's pained me to be nice about Mayo.
I
It's
know it's a rough one, like, and like it's club level, right? In terms of GA and stuff like that. Like
oh
there's literal neighbors of mine that would not cheer for like my club and would barely deign to cheer for Wexford, or if they got out, like you get this at club level all the time. Like, the neighbouring club wins the county final and they go on to the Leinster or they go on to the Munster or whatever. And there is like some people are like, oh, would you be cheering for whoever now? I was like, God, no, I hope they lose. Like, absolutely, I don't want them to win because then they'll have won something I won't have won. And it's, so it's,
and that's across the provinces why everyone hates
yeah,
each other at all times. Why the Interpros are always the most heated games apart from the
yeah.
Champions Cup. There's a reason for that vibe. It's my neighbor is my biggest enemy type of thing. But yeah, I'm glad it's for now looks like it's being pushed away. I hope it goes away forever and ever and ever. I hope the Team World Cup goes away forever and ever and ever after its first.
Well, we've already had our first recommended innovation on the Team World Cup, if I believe, out of England, right?
Yes,
Where the travel has come up as an issue, which I think nobody mentioned before the tournament, that this amount of travel in 3 weeks might be quite detrimental for the teams and for fans and for just the general cost of it. And a really effective way, if you want to bring a lot of countries together playing games, is to maybe put them in one location or one country at the very least, space them out across different stadiums and that. And hopefully one day we will have a tournament like that in rugby. It's a very innovative idea.
I've never heard of it. Given that the Nations Championship is quite literally, someone went, "What is it?" Got a thesaurus for the words "world" and "cup."
Thesaurus is a like kind idea that they actually did the work and didn't just put it into Chat GPT.
Fair. But yeah, Ben Earl kind of going, maybe we should just do this all thing. Like, no, don't.
Then it's the World Cup. Then you're just doing a small World Cup is what you're doing. You're doing a 16 team World Cup rather than a 32 team World Cup.
Nothing over the last 3 weekends, like whatever, made me feel that a day of rugby, 12 hours a day of rugby, 3 weekends in a row was actually a good idea. Like some of those games on a Friday night or on a Sunday or something would have been good. There's actually such a thing as too much rugby, and I think the games were watered down because you weren't getting that tour of like you weren't getting like.
What happens next week in the next game, and like how the teams and I think like we can get into it in the individual games. Like I think like the Ireland New Zealand game is a good example of that, right? Like where Ireland played badly, right? They got beaten badly because they played badly. Their accuracy was poor and all that sort of stuff. And to me, there's a good question of like, okay, in a week's time, when Andy Farrell has bollocked the fuck out of them,
can they change? Can they react?
Can they react? Yeah. Or is it just a repeat of the same, right? Like, is there a bigger problem there? And like that's what we got with the test series kind of set up and stuff like that. And I saw no major faults with the test series kind of structure outside of the exclusionary nature of it from other
which
clubs,
hasn't been
countries.
Fixed anyway.
No,
really
exactly.
Think about it.
It's that's what I mean. Like, so it's not like they've fixed that problem, and they just got rid of a thing that was sort of unique to rugby and cricket in terms of test series, right? There's not really other sports that do these kind of test series. They do them in American sports, like you have in knockout, like basketball does a 7 game series during their knockout
Yes.
phases. Baseball does the same. All that kind of thing. So like they do have these kind of games, series of games in their tournaments, which I do like. I have to say, it does add a dimension to the sport and to sport in an interesting way. But it's just I don't see like the improvement to rugby, or like that it brought any more attention to rugby than the summer tests normally bring. Like it is hard for anybody in Ireland to say that a game against Australia, Japan, and New Zealand would bring a bigger crowd than just 3 games against New Zealand or 3 games against Australia.
Like the Nations Championship came about because they want to package the games up in a way to make money,
Yeah.
and they had the whole thing of the summer series before. They tried the North v South. I wasn't a couple of years for the last couple of years. They're trying this North v South kind of like rivalry stuff and who's going to win and who's and at the end of the day, fundamentally in Europe and South Africa, we kind of don't care who wins or loses other matches.
But I'm assuming it's the same down south, right? I'm assuming Australian fans don't care about whether New Zealand win or lose,
yeah,
and vice versa, right?
And say with Argentina and everything like that. Like, no,
yeah, you can watch it as a fan of the sport and like pick a horse in the race, right? And 90% of people will pick the underdog in that situation, right? You're going to look like when. Or like that, like your neighbor that you don't like or whatever, like in that sense, like everybody would have been cheering for Argentina versus England in that game, right? Just because it's Argentina and it's against England.
Even if they went as far as getting a Hand of God jersey made for that match, which I think is brilliant shithousing.
That is fantastic trolling. More of that, please. I love that kind of shithousery.
That type of stuff is great, but imagine if that was the first game of a 3-test series.
Yeah.
Like that game was spicy as it was. There'd be literally fist flying games.
Yeah,
it would be a great spectacle. Like in one way. But anyway, like we'll get into it as we go to the wrap up of the Ireland series.
I do have one hobby horse before we move on to the games.
Go on.
So you're already discussed this too. So this is directly for Leinster supporters and something that is utterly ridiculous. So last week or the week before, get an email. I'm a season ticket holder. I have 6 season tickets on my account. I kind of manage it for a group of us, so we all kind of sit together and stuff like that, right? But there's 6 tickets on my account. We got a message saying, pre-season friendly against Zebre on the 12th of September in the RDS, in the Lay Arena. And like you often get these things for pre-season friendlies and stuff like that. And a couple of us were like, great, maybe we'll go along. Chance to see the new grounds that they've been done up. We're sitting in the Anglesey stand, so that's all been done up, and it'll be kind of cool to see it before you get the big crowds on the first day and all that kind of stuff. Your wife even was coming along, right? She's part of our season ticket group, and she was going to bring the baby and test out their new facilities and give it a real kind of test through. They are charging almost €30 per ticket for these pre-season games if you are sitting in either of the stands. It is €28 per ticket. You also, if you want your season ticket allocation, have to get all 6 tickets in my case. If you want to go to a pre-season friendly in against Zebre. Absolute thievery of the highest order. The fact that they are charging for a pre-season friendly at all is insanity.
That's the scandal of it.
That's the scandal to begin with. New stadium or not, right? I'd have to go back and check, did they charge for previous years? They probably did. But like the idea that it is €30, which is, I think, possibly more than the tickets I paid for to watch the Ireland women in the Aviva against Scotland. I think those were €25, and these are €28. Is utter scandal, and Leinster Rugby should be ashamed of itself that they are charging season ticket holders for pre-season games.
I know the Connacht ones are free. I know the Connacht ones are like on the ticket.
It's mental.
It is.
I can't stress enough. Like I come from like a hurling background, GA background. The Wexford Championship started back up this
But
weekend.
you Leinster
So
fans can afford it. That's the whole point of it.
this
Yeah.
is the fucking this is the point, right? South Dublin to the end, right? Like who doesn't like? You'd find that down the couch, like but like we had a friendly match against a Kilkenny club in the week leading up to championship over in our local field. They weren't charging us even €2 to go in, but like you know what I mean. It's just like it's a non-competitive game, so to speak. It's a pre-season friendly. Like it's the definition of a game that doesn't matter. In that sense.
It's ridiculous. It is the most ridiculous thing I've heard.
Getting anybody through the door. If people buy a pint at the match, you've made your money back, as far as I'd be concerned, at a preseason friendly. The idea that you would charge for the seats, craziness.
Especially as this is something that's designed to test the new stadium. So obviously almost better to have more people in going for free and just stress test the issues.
And I would imagine more like I don't go to the preseason friendly games for the obvious reasons, which is I got better things to do with my time than sit at a game that does not matter and watch 12-year-olds play different 12-year-olds, which is what a lot of the preseason games tend to be, because nobody over the age of 30 is playing in one of these games, in my experience from looking at the team sheets that get sent out.
Especially as Leinster's international squad is all not gone. Available.
And like unless you're coming back from injury, that's the only reason somebody's playing in a game like this. Like, but so it's not worth any effort to go to unless I happen to be around the RDS at the time the game starts and could decide to wander into the stadium. But if I wandered up to the stadium and it said 30 quid, I'd tell them where to shove it. It is utter insanity that they are charging for these games. When you're right to say, my assumption is, and the way I was taking it was like, good opportunity to stress test the stadium, give them some feedback, get a sense of what it looks like, create some buzz, create some interest in it, all that kind of stuff. And as you say, then maybe get a bigger crowd. Still a ticketed event, right? So even like we were talking a little bit before this, and you were like, oh, well, maybe they don't want too many people there. It's like, it's still a ticketed event. There's still assigned seating. They'll still know how many people are coming by the number of people who claim the tickets. No different than they do for the women's Interpro games, where you have to go in and claim the tickets. It's not just automatically added in that sense. They could 100% do it. The technology exists. They do it for the other games. For the women's Interpro, this is not that difficult a thing to do. If they had charged me $5 per seat, I would have probably paid it and said, "Grant, it's 30 quid for the 6 tickets. Fine. Yes. I'm not happy, but it's $5. But €28 per ticket is robbery. Absolute theft. Like, there's regular season games I'd like grin and bear it paying 30 quid for to go into them. You do well to sell and regular season Zebra Gabe in the RDS for 30 quid. No offense to Zebra, but like in terms of where they exist in
I know what you mean. It's mad. It's genuinely mental.
Like, infuriating in terms of behavior. Like, it's just, what are you doing, lads? Just it's such an easy one to just piss people off with. And I haven't heard anybody else give out about it or complain about it because it's a preseason friendly. But I'm going to complain about it and let it go from there. But that's my rant over. I will leave it at that.
And that's Will's grind my gears for this week.
Yeah, exactly. there's your social clip. You can have your rant about Leinster charging for pre-seasons and other provinces don't. And let's see how that goes online.
I'll just let you start. Then start doing that speed up thing. Ridiculous. All right. Before we move on to the Irish games in the Nation Championship, just take a break, but make sure you all hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube or podcast, wherever you listen to. And don't forget, we are literally everywhere in those podcasts. So if you're on YouTube and you want to listen to podcast, it's on all the podcast things. If you're now listening to a podcast and you want to see our faces, we're on YouTube. Follow me on social media. That is the second row. That's 2ND, not the word second. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok. I'm everywhere. Follow. Get involved, leave those comments, rate, review. It genuinely means a lot to us, and it's good crack. But seeing and hearing what you think about what we're doing, and it does genuinely guide us at times when, especially an episode like this, that's a bit more loose. Your contributions help guide things. So don't forget the new season's coming up soon. In a month's time, we will be doing previews. If there are things you want us to kind of look at, maybe or focus our attention on, let us know now so I can actually start researching in the next month.
Send in your questions as well. Like, if there's stuff that you think are weaknesses in the individual provinces coming into the new season, like, send them in, right? Like, that you think what your view is on the provinces next season and Ireland's hopes in the World Cup next season, right? We'll share some opinions if we get a few in.
And short of you kind of going, it's shit, you're shit, everything's crap, and the world is going to end, and we will.
It's not really an opinion. Like, I'm looking for at least name a player or a style of play or like position in the game that is a problem.
Yes. So that is all. That is the social bit for the week. That's our break, and we shall move on. And will we finally get to the Ireland games now? And
well, let's do the Ireland games now, and then we'll do our Irish bit afterwards.
Grand. So 3 games, 2 wins, 1 loss.
Yeah.
31-33 win against Australia, which we talked about. Japan was a less than routine 20-36 win, I would say. And New Zealand was a 40-21 point loss, where genuinely, if 2 of those tries were scored against a junior rugby team, 4 players would not be playing the next week. Like, they just would not be. They'd be subbed off straight away, be honest with you, So, but that is not to say New Zealand didn't comprehensively beat us, outside that. I think they were a comprehensively better team across that game. Sorry, the first half. I think the second half did even up, but they took the foot off the pedal at that point anyway. So it's kind of, it is, I would actually say, quite a disappointing 3-game series overall.
I'm probably more positive than that. Disappointing isn't probably the word I'd use.
Disappointing is not disappointing, because like, you win 2 games, you show enough in some of them to feel happy. You get someone like Sean Jansen getting 2 caps and showing against Japan's 1 game, but against New Zealand, actually he is able to step up into that, into test arena at the highest level and create impact. That's good. You have an extra player who has shown they can add
more immediately step up.
More immediate set up. There was guys who had their first caps in the Japan game. It's far too early to tell. That being said, they made things better in the area that we were weak in that game. I think the front row that came on, the substitute front row, was a vast improvement on the
starting one. Yeah.
So there's things there you can look for, but I think Billy, sorry, there's something going on outside. Man, just really confused me. And I think Sean Jansen was the kind of the standout, like the star, the revelation from a playing point of view. It'll still be very hard for him when Doris comes back fit and everything like that. So first of all, for me, we have to have the caveat that there was no Porter, no McCarthy, no Doris, no Mac Hansen, no Finley Beelum, if you want to kind of go there as well. I'm missing, I think, another 3 injured players. There's no Tommy O'Brien.
Yeah,
I was forgetting which one. O'Brien.
Crowley.
There's no Crowley. So like, that's 7 players that I think would
are arguably starters, or certainly off the bench
in the 23.
In the 23, definitely. Yeah,
of normal.
It's a third year team, basically, if we want to think of it that way. Missing.
And so I think what we saw was good in one degree, because the system didn't capitulate. Without those guys there. Across the board. But I think we saw problems we saw in the Six Nations kind of carry on. So the slow starts, and I was wondering, is this something that's happened in one game? But no, it happened against Australia, slow against Japan, to be honest. And I don't think we started against New Zealand.
New Zealand's a hard one to call, because I think you always run into that problem in a game like that, where did we play badly because we were bad, or because they put us under so much pressure and played at such intensity that we couldn't help but play bad? So, you know what I mean? And it's probably the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, right? We played poorly, they played excellently, which led us to playing poorly because they put us under a lot of pressure. So it's probably a bit of both in that one. But I would agree with you. We didn't start well in any of the 3 games. And
across the 3 games, we didn't improve. So in the Six Nations, we played poorly against France, but by the time we played England in the last round, we were like, but we're always trending upwards. There was no sense of trending upwards in these 3 games. And that's kind of where that disappointed. It's more,
I get you.
I don't think we saw the best of the Irish squad that went over. And I have kind of like general things why I think that could be, but One of them, I think we were talking about, was coaching. I think there's a part of me that thinks this Ireland team has a coaching issue, in that we always knew that Andy Farrell was the vibes guy. You know, he
Yeah,
was always, that was his job.
yeah,
So who are the technical coaches around him,
yeah,
and what are they bringing to the table?
yeah.
So Ireland's biggest weakness for all teams is attack our line out. We saw against Japan, saw
Mhm.
against New Zealand, saw against Australia. Paul O'Connell's a vibes coach, you know, in terms of the line out. So it was an issue, not an issue again. It's an area of weakness. World Cup coming up. It's something that's kind of got to be sorted. Everyone kind of talks like we need a line out master. That's great. We had one over there, never played him. You know, that Darren Murray was there as the line out guy. Like, that's
Yeah.
why he played against England. That's why he did so well against England.
And Ryan Baird, who we didn't mention earlier on, who's
Is
injured,
also injured.
is also he's the lineout guy for Leinster and has done that role for Ireland as well.
Yeah. So when you have a second row of McCarthy, so this then leads me into, sorry, I'm not picking up Paul O'Connell. I think there's also issues in our scramble defense was good, but if we can't regather shape in 2 phases of time to scramble, we can see. You know, there's a disconnect between our scramble and our ability to reconnect, which is an issue. And then our attack, I was screaming at the New Zealand match, like genuinely so frustrated. There was a try that we scored under the posts. I think, I can't remember who scored it off the top of my head. It's in my notes, which is on my phone, which is my camera. So I can't check that off the top of my head.
I think it was Conan maybe under the
It
posts.
could have been the Conan try.
Yeah.
And there was a 5-on-2 overlap.
Mm.
But we still kept them going.
Doing the one-up runner,
after being held up 5 minutes earlier. You're just kind of going, there's a lack of vision somewhere, or there's a lack of trust between Gibson Park and Prendergast to pull that trigger out wide. Or Gibson Park can be a bit 5 meters from the line. We're here. We're going here.
Yeah.
And that's an issue, you know, where you're seeing New Zealand had 50 ways to kind of unlock us on the try line. You know, South Africa, from what I saw, have 50 ways to unlock you on the try line, let alone like from 50 meters out. I thought our kicking game was quite a poor, like, and our execution of a kick chasing, which is now becoming much bigger, that the feinting for scraps, that fending, there's just things that are becoming bigger in the game that we're not keeping up with, or we're trying to hit too many bases and we're not being a master of one. We're trying to be a bit of a jack of all trades, and it's not really helping create a positive identity going forward, as far as what I would kind of say. I think that's why I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
And then my third big overriding thing is, and I'm going to go Timony and Van der Fleer in this because I don't want any Connacht bias. If Timony and Van der Fleer were playing for a club, Timony would be the starter.
Mm-hmm.
But Ireland have a class is permanent, form is temporary outlook. And I mean this, they've had this since Rob Kearney, Conor Murray, Peter O'Mahony to a degree. I think we're seeing it. Johnny Sexton. We're seeing it now with, say, Van der Fleer, Robbie Henshaw. You know, there's too much reliance on these guys have done it for me in the past, they'll do it again. Instead of just go with the guy that's hot. Like, you know, play the hot hand, go for it. You know, I think Timony, for example, when he came on against New Zealand, changed the dynamic of our pack. Like, and what difference could have happened if he started, you know? It's elements like that that's kind of got me worried about the Ireland team's trajectory, because outside the players that are missing, I don't think we've played smart with the guys we had either.
Okay.
So that's my kind of thesis of the autumn internationals.
Okay. Mine is a little different, I think. So I'm not as pessimistic maybe as you are in terms of that disappointment, right? So I'll kind of give you my views on it in some respects. I lay some of this down at environmentals in terms of the performances, right? So and some of the factors of being influenced by other teams, right? I don't doubt, like, the fact that the Leinster guys did not travel out till 3 or 4 days before that Australia game definitely had an impact on the prep for that game. And you're playing against the prep master in Joe Schmidt, who, like, knows Irish rugby, but also just knows how to prepare for a game. And I think he would have targeted that Ireland game in particular as a one to win, and kind of set out a stall there. Japan, we made 9 changes to that team.
Yeah, it was like a very changed team.
right? And that's always going to lead to a disrupted team. And I think in our last episode we talked a lot about this, about how fans always call for, like, throughout the whole team, put in brand new people when we're playing Italy or when we're playing in Japan or whoever in these games, and then you get a game like that, which is highly frustrating and kind of like all over the place.
Yeah.
And then the New Zealand game for me, one, New Zealand played. I actually take a lot of positives out of the New Zealand game for a couple of reasons.
Weirdly, so do I, because we played poorly, and if we don't,
we're not actually that far off.
No, if you take, like, and I hate saying this, if you take away the stupid points,
but it is the stupid point. Like, I think that's a very valid.
And we lose by 4. You know, it's like, that kind of
one of those try, like the Will Jordan try, where like it's a full, just like Gibson Park losing his mind and throwing a ball into complete space, or was it Prendergast? One of them anyway. But like where it's literally just dots, like he just picks it up and dots it down, basically.
But yeah, like the problem for me there is, and it's that decision making thing of who's calling a pullback in your own 22. That's like exactly that's the crazy thing there.
But I think for me, what was interesting, so because I read it a little different on the line out, right, where I think the first game line out was under pressure, but I think that's a Joe Schmidt thing. I think that was Joe Schmidt being like, if I shut down this line out, they can do absolutely nothing. Target the line out. The line out performed decently against Japan, but again, it's Japan, so it's hard to say. The line out did behave decently against New Zealand, but again, maybe I might caveat and say that did they target us at the line out? Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Right, that might be the target. But I don't think the line out was there's no individual piece of the game against New Zealand that I can point to and be like, that's what went wrong. Like, you know, the scrum held up fine. Our set piece, when it actually flowed, was decent. We did find space. We actually, I thought, showed some more attacking options in that game than we did in the two previous games.
Definitely.
But our execution was the worst I think I have seen in probably 5 years, where like we could not string a pass together to save our lives. The amount of handling errors, and not just like throwing a pass too high, you know, into someone's chest when they were trying to catch it.
They'll like straight into no
just to absolutely nobody. I don't know, is that the people not been in the right position or the passers like picking the wrong choice and not looking and not.
It's always both. It's always both.
I assume it's always both. But there was just, that was to me, what that game looked like to me was an exhausted group of players who could not mentally focus on the intensity of the game that was being played at them, right? So I was like, New Zealand were here to absolutely not lose their record.
Completely.
Full on, right? And like, I think the intensity that New Zealand played that game at, particularly in that first 40 minutes, is the sort of like validation of where Ireland now sits in the New Zealand psyche from 10 years ago, right? Like we can see that in these games now. And Ireland were out on their feet mentally. Physically, they were fine. Like they weren't slow to the ball, like slow in the sense of to the ball and to the tackle, but like 22 missed tackles in the first half.
It was just it was just terrible.
Like, and we I think we in the last episode said, like, if they don't miss the tackles and if they shoot out the line and they catch them, Ireland is actually set up relatively well to defend against them. But so I looked at that New Zealand game and think, okay, a more rested, like a team more rested or like a little bit refreshed mentally, not at the end of their season after a big Lions tour as well, where they were the bulk supplier.
This is
a much closer game. Like I look at that New Zealand game, go like, that New Zealand, like, again, right? And this is all copium and all this kind of stuff, right? But like, would I rather have beaten New Zealand in Eden Park and taken that scalp and have them seething when we inevitably play them probably in the World Cup again next year and ready to take that scalp? No different than they were in the last World Cup when we had beaten, like, if you think about it, in the last 2 to 3 World Cups, we have given a New Zealand a reason to be fired up for a game against us. We broke the record against them before the 2019 World Cup. And then in the last one, we were the 3rd team ever to beat them in a series in New Zealand.
Yes.
And like, did we really need to, for a 3rd time, give them some ammunition to fire themselves up for a game against us? Personally, no. And like, would I have rather won that game? Of course I would. You want to win every game.
So this is elaborate rope-a-dope. That's
this is
4D
like
chess.
Full 4D chess from Andy Farrell. He's like, I'm going to lure them in. I'm going to play so shit that people are going to think that like it's the worst. Like, you know, the only explanation for how bad they played Porrick is like, who would throw out that pass and hand that ball to Will Jordan? Had to be on purpose. Goes deeper than you think. This goes all the way to the top.
And I think when Tyke Bird and Jack Conan look at the try off the back of the scrum, they'll be shot because no number 8 should make it no one should be able to pick and go off the back of the scrum and make the backline defense. Like
Yeah, yeah,
that's it. Like
yeah. It's crazy.
like or so at that point they're going to score. Like at the once they've passed, Tyke Burns still had his head down.
Yeah.
And pushing, and the scrum wasn't a factor. I don't think he needed to be that engaged.
No, it wasn't. They weren't dominating us in the scrum, or or
we
where it was
weren't
super
playing
weak.
South Africa.
No,
who
which I
wanted
would be I'm worried about after the 3-game series far more so. That could be very bad in November in that sense. But I think that's where my positivity comes from, right? Is that we did not play well in these 3 games. We won 2 of them and lost 1. And we have been a year out from a World Cup. We have been absolutely singing almost every time. And it's kind of no harm to not be singing and to have things to work on and to look at a game like that New Zealand game and say, you know what, lads? Yeah, we got bet by 19 points, but really, if we were really on our game, which we weren't, we're within 4, and then if you're within 4, then it's a game, right? And then who knows?
And then you can kind of go talk about some of the decisions on the day and stuff like that.
I mean, look, there was a lot of talk about the ref in that game, right? And I think, yes, we don't do a lot of ref bashing for good reason because there's too much of it on the internet. The ref made some shocking calls in that game. He will have his own review.
The bunker as well didn't help.
The bunker did not help either. The fact that stayed a yellow is insanity. The idea that he was reaching with his 2 hands when he was off his feet diving, you know what I mean? Obvious things.
It's more that it was a line break when Tyke Byrne had an acre of space. He was going to clearly make 15 meters before he was tackled.
Totally. But anyway, those are not the reasons we lost those games.
No,
those are the reasons we would lose that game if it was a 4-point game. Right.
Yes.
Then you would have a much more legitimate argument. And I would still say, and you would still say, don't leave it in the ref's hands, lads. Don't leave it so that
completely.
you're scored down. Anyway.
And a prime example of that is the breakdown. I'm just going to talk about the New Zealand-Ireland match for a second. Yeah. Ireland could not get to the grips of the fact that the ref wanted the jackal channel completely clear. So if you tackled someone and were looking at the ruck or looking at the player you just tackled, no one could go for the ball. And Ireland could not adjust to that whatsoever. That's mental. That is on Ireland completely. But that's also from the coaches not copying what's going on and relaying the information. Don't worry about jackals. Stay on your feet, make the next tackle. Get out of the way faster. Almost after it as you're going in. Can I bring his attention to it? None of that was going on. It was very much they were being coached off the ball. They couldn't slow New Zealand down because of it, and New Zealand on fast ball were going to destroy Ireland, and that's where my point about the scramble defense came in, because there are a few times where Australia, Japan, Japan less so, Australia, New Zealand, Japan's we gave Japan all their points, but against Australia, New Zealand, when Ireland conceded a line break, if we couldn't get back in shape within 2-3 phases, it was points. It was guaranteed points because you could just almost see it coming. And New Zealand's ability to play from touchline to touchline exasperated that even more. And that would be my worry in terms of that. Our defense is a bit found out at this point.
Yeah.
And for me, that coaching ticket completely has been together a very long time, especially at the top end, from
used to be, Connell and Farrell and
that the top 3 have been
Fogarty as well.
Fogarty,
arguably,
but those 3 have been there so long together that I think the new voices aren't coming in with a bit of coaching pedigree that can help them influence things. So Sexton comes in as a mentality person.
Yeah,
O'Connell comes in as a mentality person, and you're kind of going, okay, cool, but who's changing up the voice and disagreeing with these guys? From what I can tell, no one. And that's more where my quote unquote worry comes from.
And I would be the same, right? I'm a big believer in if Andy Farrell had not signed a new contract post World Cup, right? If he was going at the end of the World Cup, I'd be great. He, in a sense of, not that I want to see him go. I think he's an amazing coach. He's been an amazing coach for Ireland. He's created such a strong mentality around the team, and he's absolutely. I wouldn't want to really lose him out of Ireland. I'd hate to see him go to England because I'd hate to see what he'd do with an England team.
Genuinely, because of Andy Farrell, for people who actually pay attention to rugby, Ireland don't go into a game against New Zealand and are expected to get humped. Yeah. It's people who don't pay attention to what Ireland have done over the last 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
That kind of, it's where that ethos comes from. My dad, for example, doesn't follow rugby, went, also New Zealand are going to win because it's New Zealand.
Because it's New Zealand, it's Ireland, and da-da-da. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to like I can't have the 10-minute conversation. Kind of go, well, yes, but no, because
Yeah,
it takes 10 minutes to kind of get someone around from that. I don't watch enough rugby to kind of
for the
know.
nuanced opinion to kick in,
Yeah,
and that small progression, that slow progression, and even that we're a year out from a World Cup and it's been a long tour, and both
yeah,
Andy Farrell and the players are coming off a Lions tour where Ireland were the bulk suppliers and therefore they're tired, and then Leinster players went deep in the season, and like there's lots of, which always feels like if you're explaining you're
it's
losing kind of situation,
yeah,
which I am not trying to say, but like it is also like a lot of time when you do that kind of stuff, it's like, well, everybody's dealing with that. I'm like, everybody's not dealing with that, right? To be clear, there's very few countries in world rugby at the level that Ireland operate at that are reliant on so few teams. Like France are not based off one or two teams
no.
being the bulk supplier to the French national team, right?
I think
Like
they did the
they
Champions Cup without the
they
Toulouse.
didn't, but they didn't send the Toulouse team players because they
Yeah,
were in the final, in the French final, in the top 14 final, right? The Bordeaux players went because they won the Champions Cup, but then didn't make the knockout stages, so had essentially a month off of the top 14, right? So they were first, and even still, BLBRA didn't go from Bordeaux.
yeah,
Like you know what I mean? And like they did fine. They didn't win all their games, but they did fine because they were sending a weaker team. And there's all the jokes with them sometimes. But even like England don't have this problem. They have 10 clubs, and they kind of there'll be one or two teams that maybe have a few more players, but it's not where it's like nearly half the squad is coming
no.
from one team, right? That's Italy, right? Italy are in that place.
Scotland
Wales
are
are in
in
that
that.
place. Scotland are in that place. And Ireland operates at a much higher level than those countries do. But like we then suffer when we have a situation where you're calling on a Tyke Byrne and you're calling on a Jack Conan and a Doris, and I know Doris wasn't there, but like, Tyke Furlong, all these guys, to be the bulk supplier in a Lions tour and play every game of a Lions tour,
And
to
then
then
be the
drive their
best.
club
Yeah,
forward and like lead their clubs like all the way through a season, and then push hard in a Six Nations that you're meant to be third, you're meant to be better, like winning the thing, and then go down to New Zealand and to Australia and at minimum not embarrass yourselves. And so it's a long, like I think of this more mentally than I do physically.
yeah,
They're well conditioned players. They're well managed in terms of their minutes, but I think it's the mental, like these guys just need some time to not think about rugby. And I include Andy Farrell in that.
yeah.
I like he is somebody who has had to like look across different campaigns and teams multiple times this year, adapt to a new tournament structure this year in a way that he wouldn't have before, and like all of the countries had to do that for
You
sure.
wouldn't be surprised if he was semi shadow coaching Ireland last year as well.
100% he
Like
was. Yeah, we know he was.
so there's a whole thing about that mental side. I agree completely. That's because I go back. I said it before this tournament. I go back to Bunyaki in the documentary on Conor Rugby 4 years ago.
Yeah,
He came back from the Lions dead.
yeah,
He said, I haven't stopped in 18 months.
yeah,
And that's including the breaks they're given. But your brain is just hardwired to keep going,
yeah.
And and now you have more players feeling that. I completely understand it. But I think this is where the bigger coaching picture in Ireland and the bigger structure is an issue where we look at South Africa, they're bringing cabs of 50 people in every now and again,
Yeah,
just so everyone knows the system. I think
yeah,
they also play a simplified game of rugby. Ireland play a very complex ruck to ruck to ruck to ruck, shape
yeah.
game. That 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 structure is so tight that it's very difficult to bring people in to a degree.
And also hard to execute when you're tired. Like I think
Yeah,
we saw that in 2019, right? Like that was the problem of the 2019 World Cup, was Joe Schmidt's system was a very high precision game plan and structure, and they were just tired. Like
yeah,
they were and like a little bit figured out, as you were saying about like our defense at the moment, but like we were a little bit figured out, and sort of just too tired from executing a very high precision, high intensity system to be able to have the elasticity to adapt. And this again is mentally the elasticity to adapt, not physically in that sense. And I would agree with you, that's a coaching thing as well. Sometimes a fresh voice um can just reinvigorate in that way. And you have to be very careful making those kind of coaching changes. But I agree with you. I think somebody like, Paul O'Connell to me is probably an obvious one where I would maybe look to make a change, because it's probably been the weakest area of our game in the last couple of years,
I'd
right?
also say Fogarty. I know everyone loves him, but
Yeah,
the scrum's been
Scrum
an
has
issue,
struggled. It
even
struggled.
even with Porter. Like, so
Yeah,
even our best quote unquote front row
yeah,
and our next best three, our scrum has struggled.
yeah,
And the in my mind, the best scrum coach in this country is now coaching the under-20s next year. You
yeah,
know, like the genuinely Collie Tucker has turned Billy Bowl and Sammy Lowe into guys who can scrummage against the South African props. We've seen it.
yeah,
We've seen it all season, you know,
yeah. In South Africa as well.
in South Africa. Those guys can scrummage. We saw it in the Japan game. They came on
Yeah,
against the original Japan props, shored up the scrum, started winning penalties. You know,
yeah,
like these guys know how to scrummage. And
yeah,
I think and that's come from Connacht, because these guys haven't been in camp long enough with Fogarty to kind of adjust to his system. You know, that ability comes from Connacht. And for me, Tucker in the next 2 years, if he's not past World Cup in the Irish setup as a scrum coach, there's something fundamentally wrong with the system. Like, this guy knows what he's doing. Just I don't care if you've given 3 years of 20s. We need the best scrum coach at the international level. Who's our best development coach for the 20s? Because as we've seen over the under 20 World Cup, they finished ninth. Wasn't a good year for them. You know, they flattered. They has
flattered to see a bit. Yeah,
you know, but is the coaching structure from top down right? Getting the right guys in the right jobs with the right experience. I'm guessing this way again, Tucker, the experience of an international level game,
yeah,
so he might step up or come back into a province as a head coach at some point. You know, but for me, those changes need to happen sooner rather than later between both set pieces, and an attack coach or a defense coach. I don't know which, if that makes sense. So one of them needs a new voice, because Farrell does one or the other, and
yeah,
Easterby does defense. Easterby's in charge of defense.
yeah,
Farrell's in charge of attack
yeah.
in the main, because I don't think we have a
We don't
bespoke
have a
attack
dedicated attack coach in
coach.
that sense.
I
Like,
think Farrell, yeah.
yeah, and again, I always felt like, when Felix Jones kind of dropped out of England, that always felt like a missed opportunity to me, that he wasn't brought into Ireland immediately in
Yeah,
whatever. Like, figure out the contractual legalities of it all, lads. Just get him, right. Give him whatever money you need to give him. He's won a World Cup with South Africa. At the very least, his insider knowledge of how Razzie does things would be hugely beneficial to Irish rugby. If for nothing else, like, never mind his own actual abilities as a coach and proven as a coach in that sense, but there's big coaches, big, like, even just Irish coaches, right? Like, and I know some of them have a bad taste in their mouth from once, like the likes of Felix Jones probably has a bad taste in his mouth from Munster, and Jerry Flannery the same, and would be probably reluctant to come back into the IRFU and all that kind of stuff. But I think, like, Nucifora is gone. You can claim New World Order. You're coming in at the IRFU. You're not coming in at Munster, and
Also,
blah 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 blah.
what happens in Ireland is very different to what happens at Munster, as
Yeah,
we found out many times before. But yeah, there's something about and I say this, and here's my caveat: there isn't that many top level coaches in rugby. You know,
no,
genuinely.
no. There's not a laundry list out there that you can go and just, like, beg, borrow, and steal from. Like, a lot
Yes.
of them are either already taken or already eyeing up bigger jobs, and you're not like, Ronan O'Gara ain't coming in as an assistant coach to Ireland. He's coming in as a head coach to a province or the head coach of Ireland, and that's that. Like, he's not taking Simon Easterby's job, for example.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't see that happening as a kind of equivalent. Maybe Noel McNamara would, maybe, because it's international level. That would be maybe the exception in that case. But
And it's that whole thing of keeping up with where the game's going. You know, the game is
yeah,
breaking up a lot more. In general, I think South Africa kicked the most contestable kicks in the Nations Championship. You could see that they're trying to play more open, expansive game on top of their heavy set piece related type of game. Ireland feel like they're still stuck between two stools of, well, we have to kick because that's what's going on, but we like playing ruck to ruck type of thing. It's like, and it felt stuck between two stools. And I don't think not having the more creative back three options helps. Like, Jimmy O'Brien's fine. Like, he just reminds me he reminds me of Dave Carney. He'll do you a job, but he's not going to win you a game. You know, in an Ireland jersey, especially. I know that's very different when both play for Leinster. Like Tommy O'Brien,
but he hasn't shown that he's got a big ceiling.
No, like, I think he played exactly to his level across the Nations Championship. But the problem is, in a game that's relying more on kick chase and a bit of spark and being able to go out of nowhere, that's missing. I think Sam Prendergast needs a second. If Sam Prendergast is your 10, even Jack Crowley, I think a second playmaker somewhere needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the team that started against New Zealand, there is no second playmaker in amongst that.
Yeah.
Like Ringrose had a nice pass. He can be a distributing 13, but he's not a playmaker per se. Keenan has elements of it sometimes, but he's not a playmaker per se. That's why it was always Hansen. You bring it from the you bring it from the wing, and effectively Hansen plays a second playmaker, and the opposite wing works both sides in attack.
Yeah.
And it actually kind of works well because it allows Keenan to be more of a striker runner, which he's quite good at. It plays to people's strengths by in Ireland having your second playmaker come in from the wing. But that works for Ireland. We like our Big 12, effectively like a Big 13 as well, and that frees them up to do that. It's very rugby league in a sense. So when you're missing that spark from your back three to help alleviate pressure from your 10, doesn't matter if it's Crowley or Prendergast, you're under pressure. I think we saw that pressure in the Six Nations, and it alleviated when Balakoon came in a bit more, and Tommy O'Brien found that work a bit more during the Six Nations. They were doing that work between them a bit more, which I think helped, but that grew. I don't think, because these guys aren't in camp all the time, the Irish coaches don't know how to use them that way. Whereas if they were just in more camps, it'd be more obvious how to use them. Yeah, I think that's the problem. These 37-man camps, like bring in 50. Like I don't care.
I don't understand the logic of why, other than you're trying to get used to the kind of World Cup Six Nations size squads, but then just run a bit more camps, lads. You know what I mean? Do the first 2 days of the camp or whatever are 50-man squads or
50
whatever.
Man, it's and here's what everyone here, this is what we'll be doing for the next 2 weeks. Year 10, I'm sorry, we can literally go.
You're here for 4 days and then you're
here for 4 days. We are sorry, we'd love to keep you around, but one, we can't afford hotel rooms. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Genuinely, we can't afford hotel.
The provinces need you back. You know what I mean? There's a game coming up and you need to go back and prep at the provinces.
But remember, you're on our radar. This is what we're doing. Keep this in your locker. Spend 1 hour a day over the next 2 weeks dedicated to this as a group amongst your provinces. Group together, do the bits you need to do. That. And if, say, for example, in terms of line out or backline moves, kind of go, all right, E4, you're all going out to Connacht or Munster or Ulster. Go up, can I get you to do me 1 hour? I'm sure 3 of the lads will help you and run chase, and as long as you play your positions. And now you have 4 people intimately knowledge, but because they've got to coach it, it's bedding in, because they need to coach other people to help them run it or guide other people through. It's bedding in more,
Yeah. It's just more exposure.
It's more exposure, more contact points, and more use of the knowledge. And that's just kind of frustrating that Ireland aren't doing smart things. And when you see South Africa be able to make multiple changes and not feel like multiple changes have been made, that's where it comes from. It's those connection camps. We need to take a leap in our thinking in terms of the playing squad. This bulk Leinster group are very, very good. They will be bulk Leinster for the next 4 years, I would say. But when situations happen like this, we realize that the guys outside that bulk aren't being brought. They are good enough rugby players.
Yeah.
They're just not being.
They're just not in the system enough.
They're
just not getting the aware, and it just takes time to learn a system, plain and simple. And if you want them to learn it, this is again where, I was making the point earlier on of Ireland playing at the level they play that we play at, given the smallness of the squads of the teams available to us, so just the professional rugby players, because we have a rule around being played in Ireland, your rugby being played in Ireland, making you available, means there's only about 200 or less, somewhere between 160 and 200 professional rugby players to call upon for the national squad, right? Plain and simple. In France, that is 4 times that number straight away. In England, it's more than double that number straight away, just because they've got 10 clubs in England and they've got 14 in France. Never mind the Pro D2, right? Even that aside. So just your pure numbers are smaller, right? Just on a basic mathematics of professional grade rugby players. And what I think we're saying is,
and those game plans reflect that as well.
Yeah, and what we can do to leverage that as more of an advantage than a disadvantage in Ireland is treat the whole system, which we do in large ways, as a national system, right? We do it
Yeah.
obviously with the contract and stuff. And it's just about, I think what we're saying is like taking that next logical step to being like, just make the provinces essentially developmental squads much more formally for the national team, which is kind of what they are anyway. But like make those bigger camps, like just make it more of a national team setup. And if the four provinces play more similarly, okay, people might like that, but people will not care for winning World Cups.
I see. I don't actually have a problem with if the provinces have a different styles, because it's more like Lancaster having a different view to Murphy, to have a different view to Cullen, to have a different view to whatever's going down in Munster at the time.
Macmillan. Yeah.
And I forget who's coaching. Like, they change coach every 2 years. I can't remember think of their names all the time.
Remember a coach all the time.
Exactly. So yeah, and then that feeds up, but that only feeds up if there's an environment where people's voices can be heard and they're in the system. Whereas at the moment, guys are coming up, expect to just like, here, lads, learn this, let's go. If you're not on board, you're going back home again. Like that. I don't think that's good enough. I only think the only reason you should be going home is we can't keep you here. Your province needs you, or quite literally. And I'm not trying to single out a dog bow, being told you're not up to the standard of fitness to play at international level. Like
you need to get your fitness up,
that came from Murray Kinsella, like from the Six Nations. That should be the only, they're the reasons you shouldn't be in camp. I fundamentally disagree that the Leinster 23 are that much better than the 23 of all the other provinces. They are, because they play together and they are all very good players. I'm not saying everyone in this country is the same ability level, but do a job. Ireland's currently don't have someone running the line out, as far as I could see, in the matchday 23.
Yeah, the idea that if you took every second row from academy level up across the four provinces, that not one of them could be a line-out specialist for Ireland seems like that's a bigger, deeper problem.
Yeah, well, my problem is there's one up there and was never used. I don't care if he's a player. I don't care if Cormac Chuku was that guy. Why wasn't he playing? If you need someone who can fix things on the fly, and and we'll go back to the rucks in the New Zealand game. Mm-hmm. On the fly problem solving on the pitch, and that comes down to mental fatigue as well, completely. But I do,
because they were also being heavily coached by that ref, which I don't like the amount of coaching that refs do, and this ref coached the hell out of that game.
Oh yeah, completely, by both sides, and Ireland just didn't come to it, and it's not the first time, and that's an issue, so. That's why I said I'm a bit disappointed from this series. I'm not disheartened. I'm not going. I don't think Ireland are going to become fifth in the Six Nations. I still think we are top two in the Six Nations. Nothing in England made me think they are better than Ireland. Even with Ireland playing poorly, nothing. Like, they are so ragged. It's unbelievable. I don't know what. I know what Ireland are trying to do. I don't know what England are trying to do most of the time watching them. Wales are improving, but it's far too slowly.
Scotland, they're coming from such a low base as well.
Yeah, Scotland are, Scotland. They flatter to deceive. Italy are what I call an 80-meter team. They're great from 10 meters away from their own try line and 10 meters away from the opposition try line. Unbelievable. The other 10 meters, they fold so fast. They run out of ideas so fast. So Ireland are still top two in the Six Nations. Mm-hmm. Like, fundamentally, we're gatekeepers to the top three in the world. We are currently top three in the world, but we lose to France fairly regularly. At the moment, we lose to South Africa and we lose to New Zealand. That's it. We are the gatekeepers to top three. If you want to break it up there, you've got to beat us. And no one else, in my mind, is doing that. So there's far more to be positive about. I'm just disappointed about the trajectory of the team. I'm not disheartened about the team in general. I get you. I'm still positive about where Ireland are going. I think Andy Farrell is the guy who can make things happen. I just don't think.
I think we're getting there too slowly, right? I think that's probably what you're saying. Is like we're making progress, but we're not doing it quick enough, right? We're going a bit too slowly first.
And I think that's half because too many voices. I think, unbeknownst to himself, there's too many yes men in there.
And I don't. Yes men is probably unkind. I think it's more groupthink, right?
Yes, that's more correct.
Right, sorry, which is because I think it's probably unfair to say that they're yes men. That implies that they do have a different opinion, not sharing it. I think they have just been as a group, and I think that's what you mean is right. They've been together as a group of coaches for so long. They now see and solve problems in the same way, and there's no counter thinking or innovation coming from the outside. They're all thinking in the same way and style because they've all been together for so long.
And if you think the newest coach introduced that system is Johnny Sexton, who was coached by them. So all he knows is Leo.
And has no experience as a coach, right? Like,
no.
Has never coached anywhere else or outside the system or anything like that. So like, that's all he knows.
So that's going to play, and that's going to play into it. Like Paul Connell was in the Irish system, like he went abroad for like a wet week and then came back. It wasn't even really coaching abroad.
Yeah, and I think that's where like a lot of people look at the likes of
Roger McNamara,
as interesting options because they're coming from outside the system and have gained a lot of experience elsewhere in the world and like would come in with those more kind of innovative ideas or just challenge the system, right? Like sometimes it's not that the system is broken, but it is good to challenge it and say, like, we're doing it this way, would we not try doing it another way, right? Like, and they do this in France, they do this in New Zealand, like let's try it that way, let's see how that looks, let's see what shape that does, even just in trainings and in like practice games against Portugal or whatever, just to like test it out. Because again, at the very least, what it might do is just invigorate the players, right? It might just be like, oh, okay, I don't have to keep doing the same thing every week and get like be tired because I'm trying to drill the same complex kind of system every week. It's a delicate balancing act in that sense, right? But
even when I coach like underage, the whole idea of getting someone new in for a week completely, like, do you take the session, like it's your job, like, well, I'm here to coach, like they don't hear my voice, you're in charge this week, even I like asked the girls come up with drills, like, you come up with a drill, you coach it, I'll just help you along. They're like, what? They kind of look at you like, well, you're the coach. Yeah, you've heard me so much. Like, this girl,
you need a break.
You need a break, and this stuff, it's important. Having a break from the voice is so important. Having fresh ideas and being open. And with something I fail at as a coach at times is being open for people to come back and challenge you, and not feel challenged, but feel like this is just information that I might need to hear or a different point of view, and I have failed at that as a coach. I know I have, and which I will grow from. Great. But it doesn't matter as much to a degree. Like, it matters more in one way because these are people's future rugby I'm shaping, but it matters less because, the whole foundation of rugby's money doesn't rely on it. At the same, it's
several 100,000 people are not watching the results of your coaching.
Exactly. That might seem like it on a wet Saturday morning in December, but no, not at all. But yeah, so let's say big picture, Ireland, two out of wins out of 3 is good. Yeah. I think the manner of them has left me kind of, more so like the manner of it all is like, just okay.
Yeah, and I think I'm in a similar place where I maybe take the positive from it is, to me, it feels more like Ireland needs to get 5 or 10% better, not 50% better. And like sometimes people would make you believe that everything is falling apart and it's the end of Irish rugby kind of thing, right? And that's where I suppose I'm like, there is a world where this could be a lot worse and they are fixable problems. And I would much rather have fixable problems. Like, again, post 2019 World Cup, everything felt a lot more existential. Where do we go from here? The whole thing has fallen apart, the way we play, how we got to this level of dominance.
Definitely.
How do we pick up and go again from that point of view? We're not at that place in terms of losses or any of that at the moment. And it's, I think it's fair to say Ireland have declined from where they were in the 2023 World Cup. And it's been a slow decline, in that sense. But that also means that it's not as big a climb back up, right? We got 12 months to be ready for the next one. And again, all of this is irrelevant if we perform well at the next World Cup, right? That's ultimately what this team will be judged by.
Get to semi-final next World Cup. This
all forgotten. All of this is irrelevant.
All this will just be results that we think back on. And that's it.
Yeah.
And
it'll all be framed in the conspiracy theory of, well, clearly they were working on stuff and they were tired. And, like, it all gets explained away.
And I think that's fine. It's just once we get a few of those more fundamental issues of especially slow starts. I don't think a World Cup we can afford that across a tournament. Like, are we trying to build for a final that we might not make? No, we gotta.
Well, it cost us in the last World Cup, right? Like, with slow start against New Zealand, not playing well for the opening 20 minutes, losing the game by 2 points. That if we'd have started well in, we might have won. That it was a slow start that cost us that game.
Yeah, and I think that's actually now a fundamental issue against Ireland. Like if you can come out and rattle us for the first 15 minutes,
Yeah.
No more than South Africa 4 years ago. We're not a team built to chase a lead. We're like, let's get 10 points up and we're fine. But the second we're down 10 or down 14, it feels a lot more panicked. It feels a lot more, oh, this is the system going to work? Like, well, yes and no, but the system's fine, but it's built to like keep building pressure, let them break, building pressure, make them break,
Yeah.
Whereas the game's kind of going more, you have 4 phases to score and that's it, which is like, it's got a bit more loose, and the teams that are adapting to that looseness fastest seem to be just flowing ahead. And the South Africa doing it, France do it naturally, New Zealand do it quite naturally in themselves. It's like, oh, score scraps, yeah, cool, great. We like that, and that's kind of where we're at.
Agreed. I think that's probably as much as we're going to solve Irish rugby for at the end of the season. So we might move on to our Irish bit, which, as we mentioned there earlier on, a few different ways, right? We've had slow starts in the games. Ireland's decline has been slow. Ireland's progress has also been slow in terms of out of that decline. We wanted to see more adaptation in games. Like,
we have been slow putting this podcast together.
It's all slow. All of it's a little bit slow. So with that in mind, the Irish where we're going to go with is a nice simple one. End of the season, slow. What is the Irish for slow?
Slow is mall. The tá Aaron mall like Tussa Cliffy, tá siad mall Cree freshen. So Ireland are, like we said, slow star matches. They're slow in competitions. It's 5 more. Gar Hermach is rud atá éidir non clíochre. So it's a problem short term, how slow Ireland are, and something that is incredibly fixable. And something that I think Ireland can fix. Tá nós tá na daoine an chuna má tá siad ná and the people that are there to do it if they can actually get their head around the problem properly. So the Irish is for slow is mall, MALL, or gomall, GOMALL, the space in between. Lovely little word. And that is kind of us for the season. The men's season is finished now. Like we said earlier at the top of the podcast, the women's season is kicking off in 2 weeks' time. But due to many life reasons, daughter being christened, big family occasions, and for me especially, Will has his own summer to happen as well. We will do a roundup of the women's Interpros because I know we won't be able to dedicate the time to them.
We will miss at least 2 of the weekends.
2 of the weekends
of
anyway.
The series anyway. So rather than trying to do them all individually and then having breaks, as you saw, as we tried to do with these games, and that not really working out.
We're going to tell you what we're going to do and aim for that. So we're going to, once all the live stuff has happened, last week is August, we will be back for the finals weekend and talk about what we thought the games up to that has happened. And that is literally the kickoff of the women's season, going into Celtic Challenge, into the Six Nations, into their autumn series, into the Six Nations. It's it's once again, I will not go my hobby horse before I wrap up. These Interpro series should be a home and away series. It bugs me that it's 3 weeks. Like this deserves to be 6 weeks. The rugby's really good. Well worth watching. If you have a season ticket, go down to these games and watch them all. Can't only have one in the next com. Like, this is a problem. Like, imagine 3, you could build up stories. It's all that whole thing of having a home and away games.
Yeah.
Get to the games if you can. If you can't, watch them on the TGR YouTube. Or if they're not on the YouTube, I think they're on the TGR channel itself. They're good games. They're always good quality games. Give them watch. You're going to see Irish internationals and future Irish internationals.
100%. With that, I think we will wrap it up there. So we will see you again the last week of August. So kind of 4 weeks off. So it'll be the 31st of August, that Monday.
Something like that. You'll hear from us again. So
you'll hear from us again.
Until next month, not next week. Thank you all for listening. We will be back. Do get in touch. If you think anything we've said here is wrong, we can correct it in the next podcast. We'll do a huge bumper one. We will start previewing the provinces. Like we said, give us your comments, give us your feedback. So until you hear from us again, thank you all for listening and goodbye.
Bye-bye.